Hi, good morning, folks. This is J.R.Anthony. How are you? Welcome to Tantra Love. So we're still under lockdown and we're still in quarantine, and we're about to start going back into what is considered back to our old lives. But our old lives presented some issues with us, correct? Whether it was job, whether it was money, whether it was relationships, whether it was children, whether it was spirituality, in some form or the other, our life presented us with situations that had us questioning. The quarantine and the lockdown brought us to a halt, and we're now put into this fishbowl, and our emotions and our state of being got intensified. And everything that was on the back burner came to the forefront of our conscious mind. And we had to think about our mortality. We had to think about disease. We had to think about separation. We had to think about anxiety. We had to think about depression. We had to think about a lot of things that we weren't thinking about before the pandemic, before the lockdown, before the quarantine. So, what do you plan on doing when we are allowed to go back to our regular lives? Are you going back to what was normal for you? And was normal for you working? If it was, by all means, do continue and carry on. But for those of you who it wasn't working for, the normal wasn't working for, this opportunity, this pandemic has provided you with a room, forcibly, but yet willingly, to come to terms with a lot of information to give you feedback. How will you process information? How will you deal with information? How will you structure yourself? How will you cope with things? How will you handle things? Were you able to get a better understanding of it? Or are you still having difficulties dealing with it? What will you do once the lockdown is over? Are you planning to walk out of your home and go back to quote unquote normal? There's a lot of fundamental changes that has to be done with your lives in order to be sustainable, successful, and rewarding. There's things that you need to look at. There's things that you need to be truthful about. And there's things that you need to work on. We might know a lot of things. We might be knowledgeable about a lot of things. But yet there's a certain amount of fear of the unknown. And so we need to provide ourselves with a strong set of support, either within ourselves to go forward as an individual or as a group. And we all have choices. First, we have to work on our own individual self in order to understand what the possibilities exist for us outside. We have to get past our fears. We have to get past our own individual blocks and setbacks. And sometimes things might work slower for some than others. But it doesn't mean that you give up, that you just continue, becoming anxious or sad or depressed. It means that you're like a turtle, slowly but surely building to your realization, to your dreams, manifesting that internal dream into a reality. And so you have to work on yourself. You have to keep it. It's a full-time job working on yourself. Most people deny. Most people walk in instead of the forefront of themselves, they work in the behind themselves as their shadows do. You have to understand your cultural beliefs. You have to understand systems that you live in. You have to understand your environment. You have to understand your biological environment, your physical environment, your spiritual environment, your cultural environment. This is one of the things that I learned as a in social work school, is that it works on systems. And you have to understand all of these systems, and you have to keep working at them in order to understand them. And when you're getting that epiphany, not just to get it without one moment and say, aha, and then you let it slide and go back into the abyss and forgetting. So every day, work on yourself. It's a full-time job. And you have full-time jobs, you have part-time jobs, you have side hustles, you have children, you have relationships. There's 4 structure to a person's life, and that is finances, that is relationship, that is spiritual, and that is self. So one without the other will not happen. You will not. If you don't succeed at one, or one topples the entire, it's like a domino effect. It's going to fall. And when you have a strong sense of foundation within yourself, about yourself, and you accept things about yourself, and you accept who you are, and you live with yourself without shame, without guilt, without feeling as if you're obligated to others, but living your life in your true essence, in your true authenticity, your authentic self, walking in your truth, you begin to shine, and you begin to flourish, and you begin to succeed. Because then you start to see all of the possibilities. You start to believe in self. And you work congruently with the universe. One step at a time. This is J.R.Anthony. Thanks for watching Tantra Love.